Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Visconti, and here we are. We're back with our second lesson on Androcles and the Lion. We've already done our first read, and since then I was able to go in and grab my actual book, so I'm not doing it online. So here we go. Today our goal is to read and learn about the fate of Androcles and the lion. So our job is to annotate the story and find the key events that go from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. So let's go ahead and zoom on in and let's start over here in paragraph 1. So we've already done a first read. We've boxed words that we don't know. We've underlined things that we think are important. I even have a connection. This is a word that we had last week when we were learning our root words. So let's go ahead and look at this story, and we're going to underline the first event and the last event first, and then we're going to fill in the gaps in between for events that we think are important. So back in the days of the Roman Empire, Androcles escaped from his master and then fled into the deep, dark forest. All right, let's go ahead and underline that this is the first event. And let's underline our main character there, Androcles. So this is our first event. I'm going to also label it with a number 1. So we know that the first thing that happens is we have a slave. He does not have his own freedom, and he escapes into a deep, dark forest. Okay, let's go ahead and continue reading. While wandering about in the dense woods, he came upon a lion lying down and loudly moaning and groaning. At first, Androcles turned to flee, but finding that the lion did not pursue him, he turned back and went up to the beast. As he came near, the lion put out his paw, which was swollen and bleeding. Androcles found that a huge thorn had got into the paw, and that was causing the lion's pain. Androcles pulled out the thorn and then bound up the paw of the lion. The grateful cat rose and, not unlike a house pet, licked the hand of Androcles. All right, let's move on. So I've underlined the first event in the story, and I'm going to wait to underline until I get to the end. So I'm going to underline the last event in the story, and then we're going to go through and pick out the events in between. This is my second read. I'm noticing some new things. When I see the word pursue, I think of to follow. So I'm going to note that this word probably means to follow. And the reason for that is that Androcles turned to flee or to run, but then the lion did not pursue him. So he's running away. So this means to run. Because if I saw a lion, I'd probably want to run too. And the lion chooses not to follow him or pursue him. And when I take the word follow and put it in there, it actually makes sense. So that is what I think that word means. All right, on to paragraph 2. Then the lion took Androcles to his cave. Every day he brought Androcles meat, which filled Androcles' stomach. But shortly afterward, both Androcles and the lion were captured and sent to the city to be part of a public spectacle. I have a feeling that's going to be really important. I see the word captured there. So I'm going to keep that in mind when it's time to come back. Androcles was sentenced to be thrown to the lion in front of the emperor and all his court. Meanwhile, the poor lion had been kept without food for several days, so he was ravenous, and all thought he would devour Androcles in a second. All right, so I noticed that the lion has been kept without food. I'm going to give it a squiggly line because I think that helps us understand that the word ravenous means hungry. I would even go so far as to say that he is very hungry. So hungry he'd be willing to eat anyone. And I don't know about you, but a word that we use nowadays is the word hangry. When you get so hungry, you get angry. And so this lion might be hangry enough to eat the person that saved him. The time came and Androcles was led into the middle of the arena. Soon the lion was let loose from his den and rushed, bounding and roaring towards his victim. But as soon as the lion came near to Androcles, he recognized his friend. The lion fawned upon him and licked his hands lovingly. The emperor, surprised at this, summoned Androcles to him. Androcles then told him about how he had helped the lion by removing the thorn. Whereupon the emperor pardoned and freed the brave man and let the lion loose in his native forest. All right, so let's go ahead and underline this last line here. This is our last event that happens. I can't number it because I don't know what number it's going to be, but I do know that this is the last thing that happened in our story. So first he starts as a slave that escapes to the forest, and then he ends up being a freed man, and also the lion is set free too into the forest itself. All right, so let's go back into our story. Now we need to find out what happens in between him escaping and him being freed. So let's go ahead and look here. We're going to go back into this paragraph 1. We also did some vocabulary work there. Got those words to make more sense for us. What happens after he runs into the forest? He comes upon a lion laying down and loudly moaning and groaning. He notices that the lion put out his paw, which is swollen and bleeding. So he finds a lion. So he came upon a lion. So we're going to mark this, and we notice that the lion is swollen and bleeding. So these two things here are step number 2. This is the second action that happened in the story. Because without finding the lion and the hurt paw, let me zoom in a bit, Androcles would not save him, and the two of them would not become friends. So we're already piecing together our story. So what ends up happening? Androcles pulled out the thorn and then bound up the paw. So he took good care of the lion. And so we're going to mark that as event number 3. Again, if he doesn't stop and pull out that thorn, they will never be best friends that gets them freed from the emperor. So these steps are very important to getting to the end of our story. So I'm going to note here that he cares care of the injured lion. So that's an important step. He could have run away from the lion because the lion is big and scary and normally eats human beings or other animals. And instead the human being stops and out of his kindness helps him. And then what does the animal do? Well, it licks his hand and shows his gratefulness. So let's go to the next paragraph. Then the lion took, and I notice, here's a key word. Let's go ahead and I'm going to put a squiggle line under that. Then tells us that the story is moving on, and here we are at the next step. The lion took Androcles to his cave. Every day he brought Androcles meat, which filled Androcles' stomach. So first, Androcles takes care of the lion, and now the lion takes care of Androcles. He even brings him meat and takes good care of him. So this is step number 4. I don't know about you, but this sounds like an event where if you are kind, then you will receive kindness. So if kindness equals kindness. And it tells us a little bit about both the human character and the lion character in the story. The lion normally eats people, and because of the human's kindness, it shows that animals, even wild ones, can be kind. All right. But shortly afterwards, both Androcles and the lion were captured. We kind of figured that this was going to be an important part of the story. They're captured. So let's go ahead and mark this as event number 5. Okay, there we go. We have made 5 finds so far. So we have our first event, that Androcles fled from his master and goes into the forest. Then he takes care of the lion's paw. I put the 2 here because it is in between these 2 points that he came upon the lion and then he took care of him. And then he found him with the injured paw. Then he took care of him. Then Androcles followed the lion, and the lion took care of Androcles. So it was a back and forth kindness between the 2 of them. And then the last step here is they get captured and taken to the city to be part of a spectacle. All right, so here we go. We're back up here to paragraph 3. Looking for more steps that leads to them being pardoned and freed into the forest. So Androcles is sentenced to be thrown to the lion in front of the emperor at his court. I'm going to go ahead and stop really quick, and I'm going to highlight this. This is that spectacle that they were talking about. And then last week when we learned our root words, we knew that spec means to be seen. So this is an event to be seen. So there's possibly Not only is there the emperor and all of his court, but a lot of people are watching this, kind of like going to a soccer game. So I'm going to put some eyes here. Not very good eyes, but that's okay. They're watching what is happening. All right, so let's go back to finding our events. So Androcles, let's see. He is sentenced to be thrown out. Meanwhile, the poor lion had been kept without food for several days, so he was ravenous. This is all background information that is going to lead up to what happens in our story. So the time came. Ooh, this is a really good word that tells us, hey, here comes the next event. Androcles was led into the middle of the arena. So this is event number 6. And soon the lion was let loose from the den and rushed, bounding and roaring towards his victim. So first he's led into the arena. They think that the lion is going to eat him. And for some reason, people want to watch a lion eat a human being. After that, we have this word soon that tells us the next step is happening, that the lion was let loose from his den, rushed, bounding and roaring towards his victim. Let's go ahead and let's circle this word. I'm not going to box it because I know what a victim is, but I think it's an important. This is what they think is going to happen. And I'm going to note it over here in the column here that the lion should eat the man. And we know that in this case, the man is Androcles. So there he is bounding out. So this is event number 7. So I've gone ahead and marked it over here. So number 6 is that Androcles is put in the arena first, and then the lion is not long after lets him out. But instead of getting their big finale, their big, ooh, let's watch this lion eat the man, which I wouldn't want to watch, he recognizes his friend. This is the lion recognizing his friend. So here we are. This is event number 8. So the lion is recognizing his friend. Oops, excuse me, I bumped my camera. The lion fawned upon him and licked his hand lovingly. So this is also a part of that. And we kind of underlined it already in black, but we're going to add some orange to it because that's a part of that number 8. The emperor, surprised at this, summons Androcles to him. So let's go ahead, and the emperor now is surprised at this, and he wants to hear from him. He wants to know what's going on. Like, hi, why did the lion not eat you? So there's our number 8. Oh, excuse me, that's number 9. We already have a number 8. Let's go ahead and mark that as number 9. And at the same time, when he's asked this, he tells them the story about how he had helped the lion. So this is also a part of number 9. And then here we are. We are at our last event. This is number 10. So we ended up finding 10 events in our story. Number 1, starting with they fled into the forest and he got away from his master, to the very end where he becomes a free man. And I'm going to put an exclamation point that they're going back into the native forest. The lion gets to go back, and now he's freed. And it's all because of his bravery. All right, kiddos, so I'm going to move the book over one more time so you can copy down these notes. So number 1, we have Androcles escapes. And then we have 2. 2 is a 2-parter. It's he came upon a lion that had a bleeding and swollen hand. Number 3, he helps him. He takes the thorn out and he binds the paw up, probably to keep it healthy and safe and clean, so that it can heal properly. Number 4, then the lion takes Androcles into his cave and gives him meat. He takes good care of him back. And then on this page, the last part is number 5, they are captured. All right, let's scoot over here. We highlighted this first line. This is the spectacle that they were captured for, to be thrown in front of the emperor with all of his court. We notice that this phrase here, the time came, that tells us that the next event is happening, and as Androcles is led into the arena. And then soon after that, the lion was brought out to eat him. Instead of eating him, though, the lion recognizes his friend and licks his hand. So let's go ahead and mark that as number 8. The emperor is surprised and asks Androcles to explain himself. And so Androcles tells him how he helped the lion. So let's go ahead and mark that as number 9. And then number 10 here is the last step, which is when they are released. And he is a freed man, and the lion gets to return to his native forest. All right, kiddos, there is our lesson for finding the key details in a story. I will come back on another day and we will follow up with our next lesson. See you later. Bye-bye.